Hello, I'm Dr. Jay Hoffman from the College of New Jersey. This video will discuss the off-season resistance training program used by the TCNJ football team. This program is typically used in the spring semester when the athletes report back to school following winter break and will last until the end of the spring semester. During the spring semester, we are primarily focused on increasing the size, strength, and power of our athletes. We incorporate a periodized training program in which we designate a period of time to focus on a specific training goal. This will also allow us to manipulate training variables such as intensity, volume, and rest to maximize the athlete's performance and reduce the risk of fatigue and staleness. The periodized resistance training program that you see here has been developed in a linear fashion with emphasis on muscle hypertrophy, followed by muscular strength, and then muscle strength and power. Each phase of mesocycle will last between 5 to 6 weeks and may have a single-week microcycle between each phase in which the athletes do not do any resistance training but use that time to recover and prepare for the next phase of training. Typically, during this unloading week, the athletes will be involved in an active rest in which they will perform other athletic or fitness activities but refrain from any resistance training. You may have this following each mesocycle or perhaps after only one of them. I also want to emphasize that not all of your athletes will respond in a similar manner to this training program, and variation to this training program may be needed to accommodate individual athletes. The volume intensity of training typically used for each mesocycle can be seen in this slide. For the power exercises, we typically use between 3 to 5 sets for each phase of training. However, for the hypertrophy phase, we'll generally have a high volume of training with low intensity, and volume is typically defined by the number of sets times the number of repetitions, whereas intensity is typically reported as a percentage of the athlete's 1 repetition maximum or 1 RM. During the hypertrophy phase, we will typically use between 3 to 5 sets of 8 to 12 repetitions to perform between 60 to 75% of the athlete's 1 RM. During the strength phase, as you can see, the volume of training will decrease, not so much by the number of sets, but typically by the number of repetitions, because the intensity of training will elevate. There is an inverse relationship between intensity of training and the volume of training. As intensity is elevated, as you can see by the increased percentage of the 1 RM that the athlete trains with at each mesocycle, the number of repetitions that can be performed are decreased. As a result, the volume of training is decreased as intensity of training is elevated. Thus, we see the inverse relationship. During the strength power phase, again, the number of sets per exercise remains the same between 3 and 5, depending upon whether it's a core lift or not, and the repetitions will go down because the intensity of exercise is elevated. As we take a look at the next slide, we now take a look at the volume intensity through these phases for the Olympic exercises. Typically, the number of repetitions performed per Olympic exercise per each mesocycle is much lower than the power exercises. During the hypertrophy phase, the Olympic lifts will generally do between 5 to 6 repetitions, again between 60 to 75% of the 1 RM, and strength and strength power will increase the amount of weight that we use, the resistance that we use per exercise, and the number of repetitions will go down. Our off-season training program is a 4-day-per-week split routine. We divide the body up into legs, back, and biceps that we train on the first and third workouts of the week, typically on a Monday and a Thursday. And on Tuesdays and Fridays, we do chest, shoulders, and triceps. The first phase of training is the hypertrophy phase. The objectives of this phase is to increase muscle cross-sectional area and prepare the athlete for the more intense training cycles later in the training program. This particular mesocycle is characterized as low intensity and high volume, and typically the rest that we see between sets and between exercises is no more than 1 minute. During days 1 and 3, the workout is identical for each training session. As you can see, the athlete will perform the squat, deadlift, leg extensions, leg curls, standing calf raises, lat pull down, seated row, biceps curl, and 2 exercises for the biceps, biceps curl 1 and biceps curl 2. This is typically up to the athlete to choose which exercise they're most comfortable with. What's important to notice is the order of training. Typically, we'll use from large muscle to small muscle. So since the legs have the largest muscle mass, they'll be trained first, followed by the back, followed by the biceps. And even within a particular muscle group, the exercise that recruits the greatest amount of muscle mass will be used first, which is why the squat is performed before the deadlift, which is performed before leg extensions and leg curls and standing calf raises. It's important that the athlete performs it from large muscle to small muscle to avoid pre-fatiguing the muscle and not providing the muscle with the proper stimulus for the core lifts. As you can see in this workout, we see 1, 4. The 1 symbolizes a warm-up set preceded by 4 sets of 9 to 12 repetitions. For this workout, the athlete should select the resistance that they can do at least 9 times, but not more than 12. If during the course of 4 sets that the athlete is able to get 12 repetitions and feels that he can get a 13th repetition, then that weight is too light and the athlete needs to progressively increase the resistance in order to provide the same stimulus to the muscle. It's very important that the coach and the athlete understand that it's important to be aggressive in terms of increasing resistance when the athlete satisfies this training loads for that workout. During days 2 and 4, during the hypertrophy phase, the training program is also the same. And again, as you can see, these are warm-up set preceded by 4 exercise sets, especially in the bench press exercise. Again, we want the athletes to perform at least 9 repetitions, but not more than 12. If the athlete is able to get feels that they can get more than 12 repetitions, the workout weight is too light. If they're unable to get 9 repetitions, then that resistance may be too heavy. Again, we rest no more than 1 minute between each set and between each exercise. During the strength mesocycle, the primary objective is to increase maximal muscle strength. During this mesocycle, exercise intensity is elevated and training volume is lowered. Don't forget that the inverse relationship seen between volume and intensity of training. The rest between sets for this cycle is 2 to 3 minutes between the core exercises, such as the squat, bench press, cleans, pulls, or push press, and 1.5 minutes within the assistance exercises. During this phase of training, we at times provide the athletes with alternate exercises to maintain freshness and prevent monotony. However, the legs, back, and biceps routine are relatively similar to hypertrophy phase, except for the inclusion of the straight leg deadlifts that are seen on day 3 of the week, as well as the changes in intensity and volume of training. On days 2 and 4, we start to include more multi-joint Olympic exercises into the training program. We also provide for more diversity to the training program for these days. As you can see on day 2, where the athlete will perform the power clean from the floor, on day 4 they will perform the same exercise, however they will start from above the knee. On day 2, on Tuesdays, they will typically perform the incline bench press, whereas on day 4 they can perform the incline bench press with dumbbells. Again, we alternate the exercises to provide a bit more variety and prevent any monotony or boredom from setting in. If the athlete prefers to perform the push press twice per week and not the dumbbell push press, we really don't have a problem with that. It just provides differences to the variation to the training program. The only exercises that we pretty much insist that the athlete perform from workout to workout are the exercise that we will test them on, and typically that's the bench press and the squat exercise. Those exercises we want to make sure that the athletes do from workout to workout. For the other exercises, we provide the athletes some degree of freedom to feel they have some word in the workout program. It's important that the athletes communicate, that the coaches communicate with the athletes to find out what works best for them. It's imperative that we provide a training program that has the best interest of the athletes at heart. However, we also realize that not everyone is going to react the same way. So in discussions with our athletes and good communication, we would know right away if the athlete's uncomfortable with a particular exercise. Whether it's a question of technique, we will work with that athlete. But if it's a question of discomfort or perhaps a previous injury, we will provide an alternative exercise that the athlete feels comfortable in performing. During the strength power phase, the objective of this training phase is to increase maximal strength and power. The intensity of exercise is elevated and training volume is lowered further. The rest between each set and between each exercise is typically 3 minutes between the core exercises, squat, bench press, cleans, pulls, and push presses, and 2 minutes for the assistance exercises. We begin to incorporate additional explosive Olympic exercises into this training cycle. On Mondays, following 5 sets of the squat, we now include the power snatch for this training day. And on Thursdays, instead of doing the power snatch, which is typically performed from the floor, will perform the hang snatch, which is performed from the waist level, above the knee or the waist level. The rest of the exercises do remain the same and are similar to what we saw during the strength phase. As you can see from the workout on days 2 and 4, again, we provide a lot of variability, or we provide a lot of variety to the exercise scheme. Again, we've increased the intensity and decreased the volume of training. 1 to 2 repetitions are looked at for the power clean. Bench press, typically we do 3 to 5 repetitions. Remember, the difference that we see there is related to one being an Olympic movement, the other being more of a power movement. We also provide enough variety for the training program. Following each workout, the athletes are required to do an abdominal routine. We periodize this as well, and it typically involves 4 exercises: the abdominal crunch, the bent knee sit-up, the leg raise, as well as the side raise. During the hypertrophy phase, the athletes will perform 2 sets of 10 repetitions. They will go through each exercise as a circuit. So they perform a set of 10 for the crunches, set of 10 for the sit-ups, set of 10 for the leg raises, set of 10 for the side raises, and then repeat it again. During the strength phase, they'll perform 3 circuits, and during the strength power phase, they'll perform 3 circuits as well. The remainder of this video will cover the techniques of the exercises that you saw for this resistance training program. The exercises will be divided as to a specific body part or type of exercise. The first group of exercises that we'll go over are the explosive exercises. This will include power clean, hang clean, power snatch, hang snatch, push press, dumbbell push press, the high pull using both the clean and the snatch grips. During the power clean exercise, the athlete will stand approximately with feet shoulder width apart, with the toes pointed slightly outward. His knees and hips are flexed, and his hands are placed on the bar slightly wider than shoulder width apart in a closed, pronated position using a hook grip outside of the knees. His feet are flat on the floor, and the shins are approximately 2 to 3 centimeters behind the bar and over the balls of the feet. The back is flat or slightly arched, and the athlete's chest is up and out. The head is slightly tilted, and his shoulders are over or slightly in front of the bar, and his eyes are focused straight ahead or upward. During the movement, the bar is lifted off the floor by a forceful contraction of both the hip and knee extensors. This is known as the first pull, and during this phase, the torso to floor angle remains constant, and the elbows remain fully extended. The back stays flat, and the bar maintains its distance from the shin. It's important that the hips do not rise before the shoulders. As the bar rises above the knees, the hips are thrust forward, and the knees are slightly flexed to get the thighs under the bar. This is known as the scoop phase. The next phase is the second pull. During this phase, the hips and knees are forcefully extended, and the ankles are plantar flexed. The bar is kept close to the body, back is flat, and the elbows extended as long as possible. When the lower body is fully extended, the shoulders are shrugged. When the shoulders reach its final elevation, the elbows are then flexed, pulling the body under the bar. This is continued for as long as possible. During this phase, the torso remains erect or slightly hyperextended. The feet may lose contact with the floor. After the body has reached full extension and the bar has reached maximal height, the body is pulled under the bar and the arms are rotated around and under the bar. The hips and knees are flexed into a quarter squat position. Once the arms are under the bar, the elbows are lifted so that the upper arms are parallel to the floor. This phase is known as the catch phase, and the bar is racked across the clavicles and anterior deltoid. The individual then extends both the knees and hips to a fully upright position. The bar is then returned to the starting position. During the performance of the power clean, the athlete should inhale prior to the first pull phase and hold his breath into the second pull. The athlete should exhale through the second pull or the shrug phase, and during the return movement, the athlete should inhale once again. The hang clean is similar to the power clean, except for the fact that we can begin from slightly below the knee, above the knee, or from waist level. In this exercise, we'll discuss it from above the knee. The bar is going to rest above the knee or on the thigh. The athlete's heels will be flat on the floor, at or slightly wider than shoulder width stance. The athlete's torso is erect, his back is flat, and his head is tilted slightly upwards with his chest held up and out, and the shoulder blades are pulled towards each other. The bar is grasped slightly wider than shoulder width with a closed pronated hook grip. The elbows are fully extended and pointed out to the side. Shoulders are positioned above or slightly in front of the bar. During the movement, the bar is brushed against the middle or top of the thighs, the torso remains erect, and the head is facing straight or tilted slightly upwards, and the elbows remain fully extended. The bar moves in an upward position by extending the hip, knee, and ankle joints. Shoulders remain over the bar for as long as possible while keeping the bar close to the body. At maximal plantar flexion, the athlete shrugs his shoulders. At maximal shoulder elevation, flex the elbows, and the athlete pulls with the arms. Elbows remain higher than the wrists during the pull, and the bar is pulled as high as possible. The elbows are rotated around and under the bar. The wrists are hyperextended as the elbows move under the bar and the bar comes to rest across the front of the shoulders. This is the catch phase. The bar is returned to the starting position or safely released to the platform. The athlete will inhale before beginning the pull and hold his breath until completion of the shrug, and will exhale through the catch and inhale during the return phase. The power snatch exercise, the athlete will stand approximately with feet shoulder width apart with the toes pointing slightly outward. The knees and hips are flexed and the hands are placed on the bar slightly wider than shoulder width apart. The feet are flat on the floor and the shins are approximately 2 to 3 centimeters behind the bar and over the balls of the feet. The grip width is determined by either measuring the elbow-to-elbow distance or the fist while the arm is extended to opposite shoulder. The back is flat or slightly arched, the chest is up and out, and the head is slightly tilted. Shoulders are over or slightly in front of the bar, and the eyes are focused straight ahead. The initial movement is similar to what we saw with the power clean. However, in the snatch, as the bar is brushed against the middle or top of the thighs through the pull, the torso remains erect and head facing straight or tilted slightly upwards, and the elbows remain fully extended. The bar moves upwards by extending the hip, knee, and ankle joints. The shoulders remain over the bar for as long as possible while keeping the bar close to the body. At maximal plantar flexion, the shoulders are shrugged. At maximal shoulder elevation, flex the elbows and the athlete pulls with the arms. The elbows remain higher than the wrist during the pull, and the bar is pulled as high as possible. The elbows will then rotate around and under the bar, and the wrists are hyperextended as the elbows move under the bar and the bar comes to rest over the shoulders. This would be the catch phase. The bar is then returned to the starting position or safely released to the platform. The athlete will inhale prior to the first pull phase and hold the breath until the second pull. Exhale through the second pull, and then will inhale during the return movement. And the variation of the power snatch is the hang snatch. Again, the only difference being that the athlete will begin with the bar above the knee or at the waist level. Push press. The starting position is that the athlete will grasp the bar with a closed pronated grip that's slightly wider than or at shoulder width at the shoulders. Elbows are under the bar with the wrists extended. Feet are slightly wider than shoulder width, and hips and knees are slightly flexed. During the movement, from a slightly flexed position, a slight counter movement is performed, followed by an explosive push of the bar upwards by extending the knees. At maximal hip and knee extension, body weight is shifted to the balls of the feet, and the foot is plantar flexed. The bar is pushed from the shoulder until the elbows are fully extended overhead. Bar is then lowered to the starting position, and the hips and knees are flexed to absorb the weight of the bar. During the push press, the athlete will exhale during the upward movement and inhale during the return to starting position. Another variation of the push press exercise is by using dumbbells. Everything is the same except the athlete will hold 2 dumbbells working simultaneously instead of using the barbell. During the high pull, the athlete will rest the bar above the knees or on his thighs. His heels are flat on the floor at or slightly wider than shoulder width. His torso is erect, back is flat, and his head is tilted slightly upwards with his chest held up and out. His shoulder blades are pulled towards each other. The bar is grasped slightly wider than shoulder width with a closed pronated hook grip. Elbows are fully extended and pointed out to the side, and his shoulders are positioned above or slightly in front of the bar. During the movement, the bar is brushed against the middle or top of the thighs. The torso remains erect, and his head is facing straight or tilted slightly upwards, and his elbows remain fully extended. The bar is moved upwards by extending the hip, knee, and ankle joints. The shoulders remain over the bar for as long as possible while keeping the bar close to the body. At maximal shoulder elevation, the athlete flexes the elbows and pulls with the arms. Elbows remain higher than the wrist during the pull, and the bar is pulled as high as possible. The highest bar position should be at least neck level with the wrist completely flexed. The bar is returned to the starting position or safely released to the platform. The athlete will inhale before beginning the pull and hold his breath until completion of the shrug, and will exhale during the return phase. An alternative to the high pull exercise is the high pull with a snatch grip. The only difference between the two exercises is the grip. In the high pull with a snatch grip, the grip width is determined by either measuring the elbow to elbow distance or the elbow to fist difference while the arm is extended to the opposite shoulder. The primary difference between the high pull is the grip. Everything else remains more or less the same. Squat exercise. At the starting position, the athlete grasps the bar with a closed pronated grip that's slightly wider than shoulder width. The feet are parallel to each other and the shoulder width apart or wider, and the toes are pointed slightly outward. The bar will rest on the shoulders in either a low bar, meaning across the posterior deltoids and in the middle of the trapezius, or a high bar, which is above the posterior deltoid at the base of the neck position. The shoulders are abducted upward and the scapula is retracted to create a shelf for the bar. The head is tilted upward with the eyes focused on a spot on the wall at or above eye level. During the movement, the bar is lowered in a curvilinear pattern under control by flexing at both the hips and the knees. The body is maintained in an erect, chest out, shoulders back position with the lower back flat and feet flat and the knees aligned over the toes. The hips are lowered until the top of the thighs are parallel to the floor. At that point, the bar is then raised by extending the hips and knees, and limb alignment is maintained throughout the entire repetition. The breathing for the squat is the athlete will inhale during the eccentric or lowering phase of the lift and exhale during the upward or concentric phase of the lift. For the deadlift exercise, the athlete will start the exercise with his feet flat on the floor and shoulder width apart. His hands are slightly outside of his knees. The bar is grasped with a closed grip which is slightly wider than shoulder width. Bar grip can either be pronated or alternated. The alternated, which is one hand over the other, allows a greater grip support for heavy lifting. The bar is grasped with the arms in fully extended position. The athlete will lower himself by flexing the knees and his hips. The bar is positioned over the feet and close to the shins, and the shoulders are slightly ahead of the bar. The back is maintained flat by tilting slightly upward while holding the chest up and out and pulling the shoulder blades towards each other. During the movement, the upward pull of the bar is performed by extending the knees and moving the hips forward while raising the shoulders. The first part of the movement is predominantly knee extension, whereas the second part is a combination of both knee and hip extension, and finally, the final part of the movement is primarily hip extension. With the elbows extended, the bar is raised upward while maintaining its close position to the body. At full hip and knee extension, the body assumes an erect standing position. The bar is then lowered under control back to the starting position by flexing both the hips and the knees. Breathing during this exercise is accomplished by exhaling during the upward movement and inhaling during the lowering phase. Another variation of the deadlift exercise is the straight leg deadlift. The difference being that the athlete will maintain the knees extended at all times. During the leg curl, the athlete will lie face down on a bench with his hips and chest flat on the pad. Knees are positioned below the bottom edge of the thigh pad and aligned with the axis of rotation of the machine. The ankles are placed under the heel pad. The hands grasp the hand pad or the sides of the exercise machine. During the movement, the hips remain in contact with the bench and the legs are flexed at the knees. The athlete will pull his heels up and close to the buttocks as possible. The legs are then lowered slowly and under control to the starting position. The athlete will exhale through the upward movement and inhale during the downward movement. During the knee extension exercise, the athlete sits with the back flat against the back support. The knees are aligned with the axis of rotation of the machine and the ankles are in contact with the roller pad. The hands are firmly grasped the side handles on the seat. During the movement, the knees are fully extended with the buttocks and back maintaining their position on the machine. The resistance arm is slowly lowered and under control to the starting position. The athlete will exhale during the upward movement and inhale during the return phase. In the standing calf raise, the athlete's grip is slightly wider than shoulder width with a closed pronated grip. The shoulders are placed underneath the pad and the legs are fully extended in a hip width stance. The balls of the feet are near the edge of a raised surface. It's important to remember that the toes are elevated off of the ground to increase the range of motion. Pointing the toes inward, outward, or maintaining a neutral position shifts emphasis to different regions of the muscle. During the movement, the athlete will plantar flex, meaning push up on the toes as high as possible in a slow and controlled manner, maintaining the knees in a fully extended position. The toes are maintained in a plantar flex position for a brief time before lowering the weight. Resistance is lowered until the heels are below the level of the toes at the starting position. The athlete will exhale through the upward movement and inhale during the return phase. In the bench press exercise, the athlete will lie in a supine position on a bench with his feet flat on the floor. The bar is grasped with a closed pronated grip that's slightly wider than shoulder width. The bar is removed from the rack and positioned directly over the chest with the elbows fully extended. The bar will then be lowered slowly and under control until it touches the lower part of the chest near the nipples. Body position is maintained throughout the exercise. The bar is then lifted upwards in a curvilinear manner until the arms are fully extended. The body remains flat on the bench. No arching of the back or bouncing the weight off of the chest is permitted. Following completion of the set, the bar is returned to the rack. The athlete will inhale during the lowering movement of the bar and exhale during the upward movement. During the incline bench press, the athlete will lie on a bench that's inclined to approximately 45 degrees with his feet flat on the floor. The bar is grasped with a closed pronated grip that's slightly wider than shoulder width. The bar is removed from the rack and positioned directly over the upper chest with elbows fully extended. The bar is lowered slowly and under control until it touches the upper chest near the clavicles. Body position is maintained throughout the exercise. The bar is then lifted upwards until the arms are fully extended. The body remains positioned on the bench with no arching the back or bouncing the weight permitted. Following completion of the set, the bar is returned to the rack. Similar to the bench press exercise, the athlete will inhale during the lowering of the movement of the bar and exhale during the upward movement. A variation of the incline bench press is the dumbbell incline bench press, in which the dumbbells are grasped with a closed pronated grip and are held above the chest with the arms fully extended. The dumbbells are rotated so that the palms of the hands face away from the shoulders and the elbows point out. During the movement, the elbows are slightly flexed and the dumbbells are lowered slowly and under control until they reach the anterior deltoid or out at chest level. Body position is maintained throughout the exercise. The dumbbells are pushed upwards until the elbows are fully extended. Another variation of the incline exercise is the dumbbell incline flies. Again, the athlete will lie on a bench that's about 45-degree angle. Dumbbells are grasped with a closed pronated grip and are held above the chest with the arms fully extended. The dumbbells are rotated so that the palms of the hands face each other and the elbows are pointed out. During the movement, the elbows are slightly flexed and the dumbbells are moved outside in a wide arc. Dumbbells are lowered slowly and under control until they are in line with the shoulders. Dumbbells are then pushed back toward each other in a wide arc until they return to the extended arm position above the chest. Elbows are slightly flexed until they reach the final position. In a seated shoulder press, the athlete sits on a bench with back support with the feet flat on the floor. The bar is grasped with a closed pronated grip that's slightly wider than shoulder width. With the head facing forward and back supported by the bench, the bar is lifted from the rack to an extended elbow position slightly in front of the head. The bar is lowered under control until the upper arms are parallel to the floor. During the lift, the elbows are facing outward and the body position is maintained. The bar is then pressed overhead until the elbows are fully extended. The athlete will exhale during the upward movement and inhale during the lowering phase. For the power shrugs, dumbbells are held with a closed pronated grip and resting at arm's length at the side of the thighs. The feet are slightly wider than shoulder width and the knees are slightly flexed. In the movement, the athlete performs a slight counter movement and then lifts the dumbbells by elevating the shoulders towards the ears while maintaining body in an upright position and the elbows are fully extended. The athlete will try to get as high as possible with maximal plantar flexion. The shoulders are shrugged as high as possible as well. The dumbbells are then lowered slowly and under control to the starting position. The athlete will exhale during the upward movement and inhale during the return to starting position. The dumbbell lateral raise. The athlete would grasp the dumbbells in front of the hips with the elbows slightly flexed with a closed pronated grip. The dumbbells are rotated so that the palms face each other with the elbows pointed outward. Feet are slightly wider than shoulder width and the knees are slightly flexed. The back is straight and the athlete's eyes are focused straight ahead. Movement. The dumbbells are raised laterally until the elbows and wrists are parallel to the floor and in line with the shoulders. The dumbbells are slowly lowered under control back to the starting position. The athlete will exhale through the upward movement and inhale during the downward movement. An alternative to the lateral raises is the front raise as well as the alternate front raise. The lateral raise works primarily the deltoid muscle, emphasis with the middle deltoid, while the front raises will emphasize more of the front deltoid. A variation of the lateral raise, which works the deltoid, primarily the middle deltoid, is the front raises. The front raises will emphasize more of the anterior deltoid. The front raises can be performed with both arms being lifted simultaneously or in an alternate fashion. In the lat pull down, the athlete grasps the bar with a closed pronated grip wider than shoulder width. The athlete will sit on a bench with back straight, chest out, shoulders back, and thighs secure under the pad. The arms are fully extended. In movement, the athlete will pull the bar downward to touch the upper chin level. The bar is then returned to the starting position. The athlete will exhale during the downward movement and inhale during the upward movement. In the seated row exercise, the athlete will sit facing the front of the machine. His feet are placed on the foot supports and the torso is perpendicular to the floor with the chest out, shoulders back, and the knees slightly flexed. The handles are grasped with a closed grip and elbows are fully extended. During the movement, the body is maintained erect and stationary with no backward lean. The handles are pulled toward the upper abdomen, and the handles are then returned to the starting position slowly and under control. The athlete will exhale during the pull towards the body and inhale during the return movement. In the hammer curl exercise, the dumbbells are grasped with the elbows extended at the sides in a closed supinated grip. The palms of the hands are facing toward the body in a mid-range position. The feet are shoulder width apart and the knees are slightly flexed. The back is straight and the eyes are focused straight ahead. During the movement, the dumbbell is raised in an arc towards the anterior deltoid by flexing the elbow. The dumbbell is then lowered slowly and under control to the starting position. The movement is repeated in alternate fashion or perhaps simultaneously with both arms. The athlete will exhale through the upward movement and inhale during the downward movement. In the dumbbell biceps curl, grasp the dumbbell with the elbows extended at the sides in a closed supinated grip. The palms of the hands are facing forward. The dumbbell is raised in an arc towards the anterior deltoid by flexing the elbow and is lowered slowly and under control back to the starting position. The movement can be repeated in an alternate fashion or performed simultaneously. The athlete will exhale through the upward movement and inhale during the downward movement. Another exercise for the biceps curl has the athlete grasping a bar, an easy curl bar, slightly wider than shoulder width with a closed supinated grip. Feet are shoulder width and the knees are slightly flexed. The back is straight and the eyes are focused straight ahead. The upper arms are positioned against the ribs and perpendicular to the floor. The bar is rested on the anterior thigh with the elbows fully extended. During the movement, the bar is raised in an arc toward the anterior deltoids by flexing the elbows. The bar is then lowered slowly and under control back to the starting position. The body position is maintained throughout the exercise. The athlete will exhale through the upward movement and inhale during the downward movement. This exercise can be performed with an easy curl bar or with an Olympic bar. In the triceps push-down exercise, the bar is grasped with a closed pronated grip approximately 10 to 15 centimeters apart. The feet are shoulder-width apart and the knees are slightly flexed. The body is in an upright position and the elbows are positioned next to the torso. With the elbows remaining next to the torso, the bar is pushed down until the elbows reach full extension. The bar is then returned slowly and under control to the starting position. The body remains in a body position is maintained throughout the exercise. The athlete will exhale during the downward movement and inhale during the return to starting position. In the abdominal crunch, the athlete lies in a supine position on the floor. The hips and knees are lifted in the air to form a 90-degree angle. The hands are on the side of the head or folded across the chest or abdomen. During the movement, the athlete will tuck his chin into his chest and curl the upper body towards the thighs until the upper body is off the floor. The athlete then returns slowly and under control to the starting position. The athlete will exhale during the upward movement and inhale during the downward return phase. During the bent knee sit-up, the athlete lies in a supine position on the floor. With the knees flexed, he will bring his heels close to his buttocks. The hands are on the side of the head or folded across the chest or abdomen. During the movement, the athlete will tuck his chin into his chest and curl the upper body towards the thighs until the upper back is off the floor. The athlete can get assistance by having a partner hold his ankles. The athlete then will return slowly and under control to the starting position. In the leg raise, the athlete will lie in a supine position on the floor with the legs fully extended. The athlete will place the hands underneath his buttocks. During the movement, while keeping the abdominal muscles tight, he will bring his knees towards his chest, bending the knees until they are perpendicular to the floor. He will then return to the starting position. The athlete will exhale through the upward movement and inhale during the return phase. In the side raise, the athlete will start off with his body in a side position, lying on the floor. He will then lift himself up till the hips are off the floor and then lower himself back to the starting position. In conclusion, the most important aspect in the development of a resistance training program for football is that it is based upon scientific principles of training. Specifically, we want to choose exercises that have the greatest specificity of football actions, loading schemes, and rest. Although there are a multitude of exercises that a coach can choose from, some may have greater success than others. What you see here today is the exercise that we've had a tremendous amount of success with at the College in New Jersey. As long as the program is based upon sound principles of training, it will have the greatest chance for success. Good luck with your training program.